Ambassador Bequan stood in the center of the great hall. Around him, 12 alien species sat in floating chairs, their eyes barely looking at him. The Galactic Council had ruled the stars for 10,000 years. Humans had been members for only 200. To them, humans were nothing. Just another small race from the outer rim. One cleared his throat. His voice echoed in the massive chamber. Honored council members, I bring urgent news. Our scientists have found something terrible. High Counselor Vethra, a tall creature with silver skin and 4 arms, waved one hand lazily. Speak quickly, human. We have important matters to discuss. One pressed a button on his device. A hologram appeared above the council floor. It showed strange energy patterns, waves of darkness moving at the edge of the galaxy. These readings come from beyond the galactic barrier. Dr. Kim Yuna, our lead scientist, has studied them for 3 years. The patterns match markings found in ancient ruins older than any known civilization. A few council members leaned forward slightly. Most did not move at all. Something is waking up out there, one continued. Something that has destroyed galaxies before. We believe laughter cut him off. Warlord Grath, a massive creature covered in thick scales, shook his head. Humans and their fears. You see shadows and call them monsters. Vethra smiled coldly. Ambassador, the Council has protected this galaxy for millennia. We have defeated every enemy. If something dangerous existed beyond the barrier, we would know. With respect, High Counselor, you cannot know what you refuse to see. One's voice remained calm, but his hands trembled slightly. I am asking for a joint investigation. Send ships with us to study these readings. If we are wrong, you lose nothing. If we are right enough, Vethra's voice was sharp. The Council rejects this request. Return to your colonies, Ambassador. Leave matters of galactic security to those who understand them. One stood still for a long moment. He looked around the room at the faces that would not meet his eyes. Finally, he bowed his head. Then I have only one more thing to say. Remember this day. Remember that we tried to warn you. He turned and walked out of the chamber. No one tried to stop him. In the weeks that followed, strange things began to happen. Human merchants started closing their shops on council stations. They sold their goods for almost nothing and packed their belongings. Human workers requested transfers back to their home colonies. Human students left their studies at alien universities without finishing. At first, no one noticed. Humans had never been important enough to notice. Ambassador Colmere of the Ethoni. People was different from most council members. He was old and wise, and he had learned long ago that the quiet ones often knew the most. He watched the humans leave, and something cold grew in his stomach. They are not just leaving, he told his assistant one evening. They are evacuating. Every human, every ship, every child, his assistant shrugged. Perhaps they are ashamed. Their ambassador made foolish claims and was laughed at. They are running home to hide. Colmere shook his head slowly. No. I have studied humans for many years. They do not run from shame. They run from danger. He tried to bring this to the council's attention, but Vethra only laughed. Let them go. The outer rim is better without their primitive colonies cluttering it up. Perhaps now we can give that space to a species that deserves it. Months passed. The last human transport left council space on a cold morning in the galactic calendar. No announcements were made. No goodbyes were given. One day, humans were there. The next day, they were gone, far from council eyes. Admiral Parkte stood on the bridge of the warship Eternal Soul. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had served humanity for 40 years. Now he carried the heaviest burden any human had ever known. Dr. Kim Yuna walked up beside him. She was younger, with sharp eyes and quick hands. Her mind had unlocked the secret that would change everything. The last transport just crossed into our space, she said softly. All 47 colonies are empty. Every human is accounted for. Tay nodded, but did not speak. Do you think they will listen? Yuna asked. Eventually, when they see what is coming, do you think they will finally believe us? Tay watched the stars through the main window. Somewhere out there, Beyond the light, something ancient was stirring, something hungry. He had seen the recordings from the ancient ruins. He had watched the simulations of what would happen when it arrived. He knew that the Council's great fleet, the pride of 12 species, would last perhaps 6 hours against it. "They will understand," he said finally. "When it is too late." Yuna was quiet for a moment. "We could have fought harder." "Made them listen?" "No." Tay turned to face her. "I have dealt with the Council for 20 years. They see only what they want to see. They believe they are the greatest power in the galaxy. Nothing we say can change that. Only pain will teach them." He paused. "And pain is coming." He walked to the command console and opened a channel to all human ships. His voice was steady as he spoke. "This is Admiral Park Tay. The evacuation is complete. As of this moment, humanity officially withdraws from the Galactic Council. We will speak no more to the other races. We will send no more warnings. From now on, we work in silence. We prepare. And when the time comes, when the galaxy burns and the Council finally understands, we will be ready." He closed the channel. Around him, officers worked quietly at their stations. Somewhere in the distance, shipyards were already building. Scientists were already planning. Soldiers were already training. The humans had left without a sound. And in the great halls of the Galactic Council, nobody noticed the doom that was coming. 3 years passed since the humans disappeared. The Galactic Council continued as it always had. Trade ships flew between worlds. Politicians argued about borders. Life went on as if nothing had changed. Then the Outer Rim fell silent. It started small. A mining colony missed its weekly report. A patrol ship failed to return. The Council blamed pirates and sent more patrols. Those patrols also vanished. Warlord Grath stood before the Council with a worried look on his scaled face. "We have lost contact with 47 outposts in the past month. Something is happening at the edge of the galaxy." Vethra waved his hand dismissively. "Pirates have grown bold since the humans left. Their territory is unguarded. Send the Third Fleet to restore order." Grath hesitated. "High Counselor, our scouts reported strange energy readings before they disappeared. Readings that match—" He stopped, not wanting to finish. Vethra asked coldly, "The patterns the human ambassador showed us?" 3 years ago, silence fell over the chamber. Vethra's silver face showed no emotion. "Coincidence? The Third Fleet will handle this." The Third Fleet departed with 1,000 warships. 2 weeks later, not a single ship returned. No distress calls. No final messages. Just silenced. Ambassador Colmere could not sleep anymore. Every night, he studied the records the humans had left behind. They had not taken everything when they evacuated. In old data cores and forgotten files, he found pieces of their research. Dr. Kim Yuna's notes spoke of something called the Hollow. Ancient texts described it as a darkness between dimensions, a hunger that moved between galaxies. It slept for millions of years, then woke to feed. When it fed, nothing survived. Colmere showed these records to Scholar Ithany. It's an old Ithany historian who had spent his life studying ancient civilizations. Together, they translated markings from ruins that no one had looked at in centuries. "This symbol appears on every dead world we have ever found," Ithani said, his voice shaking. "Worlds where entire species vanished overnight. We always thought it was a disease or a war. But look," he pointed to a carving in the stone. "This is a warning. It says, when the Hollow wakes, only those who run survive. Only those who prepare can fight." Colmere felt cold. The humans knew. That is why they left. "They did not just leave," Ithani replied. "They prepared. For 3 years, they have been building something. The question is what?" Before they could search for answers, the Dreth home world of Kalmora went dark. Kalmora was not a small colony. It was a planet of 8 billion people, protected by orbital stations and defense platforms. It was one of the most important worlds in the Council. When rescue ships arrived, they found the planet untouched. Buildings stood empty. Vehicles sat in streets. Food rotted on tables. But there were no bodies. No signs of battle. No evidence of what had happened. 8 billion Dreth had vanished in a single night. Panic spread through the council. Species that had not spoken in centuries sent messages of fear. Refugee ships began fleeing toward the core worlds. Vethra tried to maintain order, but his voice no longer carried authority. "We must contact the humans," Grath demanded in an emergency session. They knew this was coming. They may know how to stop it. Vethra's 4 hands clenched into fists. "We will not beg for help from primitives who abandon us. The Council has stood for 10,000 years. We will stand against this as well." "With what?" Grath shouted. "We have lost 2 fleets. Entire worlds are disappearing. What do we fight when we cannot even see the enemy?" The argument continued for hours. In the end, Vethra won. No message was sent to humanity. The Council would fight alone. Kolmir and Athani did not wait for permission. In secret, they prepared a small ship and plotted a course for human space. The journey took weeks. When they finally arrived at the coordinates of the nearest human colony, they found nothing. The planet was there, but it was empty. No cities, no stations, no signs that humans had ever lived there. Every colony was the same, silent and abandoned. "They are truly gone," Athani whispered. "We are alone." But Kolmir noticed something strange. He had studied star maps his entire life, and the stars here did not match the maps. They were arranged differently, as if someone had moved them. "Not gone," he said slowly. "Hidden, they changed the star maps in our databases. They wanted to disappear." He searched through the old human records until he found something of frequency that Dr. Kim Yuna had used for her research broadcasts. He sent a signal on that frequency. A simple message: "We need help. Please respond." Days passed. Kolmir did not sleep. He just sat and waited, watching the empty stars. Then a reply came. A single set of coordinates in what should have been empty space. In one word: "Come." The small ship jumped to the coordinates. When it arrived, Kolmir and Athani could not breathe. Around them was the largest fleet either of them had ever seen. Thousands of massive ships, each one kilometers long. They bore symbols that Kolmir did not recognize a human hand reaching up to grasp a star. These were not the small, simple ships humans had used before. These were weapons of war. A transmission crackled through. On the screen appeared the weathered face of Admiral Park Tay. His eyes were tired, but sharp. Ambassador Kolmir Tay said quietly, "You are the first to ask for help." He paused. "Tell me how many of your people still live." Kolmir's voice was barely a whisper. "We are dying, Admiral. The Council is falling. We need you." Tay looked at him for a long moment. Behind the Admiral, Kolmir could see officers working, screens showing data, ships moving in formation. Humanity had not been running. They had been building. "And we have work to do," Tay said. "Welcome to the fleet, Ambassador. The real war is about to begin." The Hollow came without warning. It moved through space like a living shadow, darker than the void between stars. It did not travel in ships. It did not need them. It simply existed, spreading across the galaxy like a stain. Warlord Grath gathered every warship the Council could find. 12,000 vessels from 6 different species formed the largest fleet in galactic history. They met the Hollow at the edge of the Verith system, determined to stop its advance. The battle lasted 6 hours. Grath stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching in horror as his ships died. The Hollow did not fight like any enemy he had ever faced. Weapons passed through it without effect. Shields meant nothing. The darkness simply phased through them, appeared inside the ships. Soldiers screamed as shadows wrapped around them. They did not die quickly. The Hollow fed on them, taking not just their bodies, but their minds, their memories, their very souls. Grath watched his crew vanish one by one, consumed by something they could not touch. In his final moments, Grath managed to send a transmission. His voice was breaking, filled with terror. "They are everywhere. They are inside the ships. They are inside us," then silence. When the darkness cleared, not a single Council ship remained. 12,000 warships, millions of soldiers, gone in less than a day. The Council had thrown its greatest weapon at the Hollow, and the Hollow had not even slowed down. Panic became chaos. Refugee fleets fled in every direction, but there was nowhere to run. The Hollow spread through the outer systems, consuming everything in its path. Colony after colony went dark. Species that had existed for millennia vanished in single nights. High Counselor Vethra sat alone in his chambers on the capital world. His forehands trembled. His silver skin had turned gray with fear. Everything he had believed, the power of the Council, safety of the core worlds, superiority of his civilization, all of it was lies. Scholar Ithani had calculated the numbers. At its current speed, the Hollow would reach the capital in 2 years. Long before that, every colony would be gone. Every station would be empty. The galaxy would become a graveyard. Colmir's message reached the Council 3 days after Grath's death. He spoke of humanity's fleet, their hidden preparations, their willingness to help. Vethra listened in silence. When the message ended, he lowered his head. "Contact them," he said quietly. "Tell them we accept any terms they offer." The pride of 10,000 years broke in a single moment, far from the dying galaxy. Admiral Parkte received the Council's surrender. He did not celebrate. He had seen the reports of what the Hollow was doing. Every consumed world was a failure. Every dead species was a weight on his conscience. "They finally listened," Dr. Kim Yuna said. "Too late, but they listened." Tay nodded slowly. "Prepare the fleet. It is time to show them what we built." The human fleet moved into Council space like ghosts returning home. The ships were massive arc vessels, each one carrying millions of humans in stasis. They were not built for speed or grace. They were built to survive. When Colmir returned to the capital with the human delegation, the Council members stared in shock. Ambassador Beekwan walked into the same chamber where he had been laughed at 3 years ago. This time no one laughed. "We offer partnership," one said calmly. "Not rule. Not revenge. We will fight beside you, not above you. But you must trust us. You must follow our plan." Vethra's voice was hollow. "What is your plan?" Dr. Kim Yuna stepped forward. She activated a hologram showing the galaxy and the Hollow's advance. 12 million years ago, another species faced the Hollow. They were called the Architects. They built something, a weapon that could hurt it. "A weapon?" Vethra asked. "What kind of weapon kills a shadow?" "The Hollow exists between dimensions," Yuna explained. "It can phase in and out of our reality, which is why normal weapons cannot touch it. But the Architects discovered a frequency or resonance that forces the Hollow into physical form. When it becomes solid, it can be killed." Thani leaned forward. "Why did the Architects fail?" "Power." Yuna's face was serious. "The resonance requires enormous energy. The Architects did not have enough. The Hollow consumed them before they could finish." "And you have enough power?" Vethra asked. Admiral Tay spoke for the first time. His voice was hard. "For 3 years we have done nothing but build. We call it the Soul, arranged for the last great city on Earth. It is a network of devices that will generate the resonance across the entire galaxy." He showed them images of massive machines, installed in secret at points throughout space. "When we activate the array, every Hollow entity in the galaxy will be forced into physical form at the same moment. Billions of them, suddenly solid, suddenly vulnerable. And then, Grath's replacement, a young commander named Thel, asked. General Choi Hannah stepped forward. She was a small woman with cold eyes and scars on her hands. "Then we kill them. Every single one." The council members looked at each other. Hope flickered in their eyes for the first time in months. But Captain Li Jin knew the truth. He had seen the simulations. The array would work, but activating it required someone to be at the heart of the Hollow's territory. Someone had to plant the final nodes in places no ship had ever returned from. He volunteered without hesitation. "I need 50 ships," Jin told the admiral. "Fast ones. We go in, plant the nodes, and get out." Tay looked at him with sad eyes. "You know the chances?" Jin smiled slightly. "Someone has to do it. And I have always been lucky." 2 weeks later, 50 human ships flew into the darkness. They carried the last pieces of the solar ray. Behind them, the combined fleet prepared for the final battle. The Hollow was coming. And for the first time in 12 million years, something was ready to fight back. Captain Li Jin flew into hell. His 50 ships entered Hollow territory at full speed. Around them, the stars seemed darker. The void felt heavy, pressing against the hulls like something alive. Sensors screamed warnings that made no sense. Some crew members reported hearing whispers in empty corridors. Jin kept his voice calm on the radio. "Stay focused. We have a job to do. Plant the nodes and get out." The first node was placed without incident. The second as well. By the third, the Hollow noticed them. Shadows peeled away from the darkness and struck. Ships vanished in moments there, 1 second, gone the next. Jin watched icons disappear from his tactical display. Friends he had known for years, swallowed by something they could not fight.
Oh.
He ordered, "Do not stop for anything." They planted node after node, racing against death. Every jump was a gamble. Every system they entered could be their last. The Hollow was hunting them now, following their trail. Growing closer with each passing hour, by the time they reached the final node location. Only 12 ships remained. Jin looked at his crew. They were tired and scared, but their hands were steady. "We knew the cost," he said quietly. "Finish the mission. That is all that matters." They planted the last node in the heart of enemy territory. The solar ray was complete. The journey back was worse. The Hollow threw everything at them, desperate to stop what was coming. Jin's ship took hit after hit, systems failing one by one. When they finally crossed into friendly space, only 3 ships remained. Jin's vessel was barely holding together. Powered by emergency generators and the will of its crew, Admiral Tay was waiting when Jin stumbled off his ship. The young captain's uniform was burned and torn. His face was pale with exhaustion. "The array is ready," Jin reported. "We lost 47 ships." Tay put a hand on his shoulder. "They will be remembered. Every one of them." But there was no time to mourn. The Hollow had followed them. It was coming faster now, sensing the threat. The final battle would happen in days. Not weeks. The combined fleet gathered at the Seoluk Nebula cloud of gas and dust, where humanity had built its secret base. Thousands of ships filled the space. Human arcs, council warships, refugee vessels armed with whatever weapons they could find. It was not a pretty fleet. It was a desperate one. Dr. Kim Yuno worked without sleep. The array control station was buried deep in the nebula, protected by layers of defense. She ran simulation after simulation, making sure everything was perfect. There would be no second chance.
Hey.
"The resonance will last approximately 4 hours," she explained to the command staff. "During that time, every Hollow entity will be solid, killable. After 4 hours, the array will burn out, and the survivors will phase back into their dimension." General Choi Hanna studied the tactical maps. "For hours to destroy billions of enemies, we will need every gun we have." "And we may not have enough," Tay admitted. "But we have something the architects did not have."
What is that?
Kolmir asked. Tay looked at the gathered officers, humans, Ethoni, Dreth, and a dozen other species. Each other. The Hollow arrived on the 3rd day. It came like a wave of darkness, blocking out the stars. Sensors could not count the individual entities. There were too many. Millions. Billions. A hunger that had consumed galaxies now focused on a single nebula. And it was angry. The combined fleet opened fire. Plasma bolts and missiles streaked through space, but they passed through the Hollow without effect. The darkness pushed forward, reaching for the ships with hungry tendrils. "Hold the line," Tay ordered. "We just need time." Yuna's voice came through the command channel. 90 seconds to array activation, ships began to die. The Hollow was inside the perimeter now, phasing through shields and hulls. Crews fought back with handheld weapons, but it was like trying to fight smoke. Captain Jin's damaged ship took position at the front, drawing enemy attention with every gun it had left. 30 seconds. General Hannah watched her tactical display. The defense lines were collapsing. If the control station fell, everything was lost. All ground forces, prepare to repel boarders. She commanded. The Hollow had figured out what the control station was. Shadows were converging on it from all directions. Hannah grabbed her rifle and ran toward the defense positions. If the darkness wanted the station, it would have to go through her. 10 seconds. 5. Now. Dr. Kim Yuna pressed the activation switch. A pulse erupted from the control station. It spread outward at the speed of light, touching every array node planted across the galaxy. The resonance built, layer upon layer, till it reached a frequency that shook the fabric of reality itself. The Hollow screamed. It was a sound that existed beyond hearing, a cry of pain and rage that echoed in the minds of every living being. Crew members collapsed, clutching their heads. Some went mad from the noise alone, and then the darkness changed. Across the galaxy, in every system, in every corner of space, the Hollow was pulled into physical form. Massive creatures appeared, twisted, writhing things with too many limbs and mouths that never stopped screaming. They were real. They were solid. They could be killed. All ships, open fire. Tay roared. The combined fleet unleashed everything. Weapons that had passed harmlessly through shadows now tore flesh. The Hollow died by the thousands, then the millions. Creatures that had consumed entire worlds fell to missiles and plasma bolts, but there were so many. For every one that died, 10 more attacked. The fleet was pushed back, taking losses it could not afford. The 4-hour clock ticked down with terrible speed. At the control station, General Hannah fought her last battle. The Hollow had reached the building, pouring through walls and doors. Her soldiers fell around her, consumed by enemies that could now be touched but still could not be stopped. She planted her feet at the entrance to the main control room. Dr. Kim Yuna worked behind her. Keeping the array running shall not pass, Hannah growled. The Hollow came for her. She killed dozens before they brought her down. Her last sight was Yuna, still working, still fighting, still refusing to give up. The array held. The battle raged for hours. Admiral Parkte stood on the bridge of the Eternal Soul, watching his fleet die and kill in equal measure. The Hollow fought with desperate fury, knowing that this was its last chance. The array forced it into physical form, and every moment of solidity was a moment of weakness. Ships exploded on both sides. The void was filled with fire and debris. Creatures the size of mountains fell to concentrated barrages, while smaller ones swarmed through damaged vessels. Consuming everything they touched, Captain Li Jin flew at the head of the assault squadrons. His ship was held together by emergency repairs and prayer, but its weapons still fired. He had lost count of how many hollow creatures he had destroyed. It was never enough. Need to push harder. He called to the fleet. They are weakening. It was true. The Hollow's advance had stopped. For the first time, the darkness was retreating. Creatures that had moved with terrible purpose now fled in random directions. Dying by the thousands as they tried to escape, Dr. Kim Yuna's voice came through the command channel. The array is failing. We have 20 minutes left. 20 minutes to end a threat that had lasted 12 million years. Tay made his decision. All ships, full attack. Every weapon, every missile, everything we have. Leave nothing behind. The combined fleet charged forward. It was not a coordinated assault. It was a desperate rush, ships of every species flying side by side into the heart of the enemy. Council warships fought beside human arcs. Refugee vessels, armed with mining lasers, flew next to advanced destroyers. They died together. They killed together. Kolmir watched from the medical ship where he had been placed for safety. Beside him, Scholar Ithani recorded everything, knowing that if they survived, this history must never be forgotten. They are winning, Ithani whispered. The humans are actually winning. Kolmir shook his head. Not just the humans. All of us. Together. The final minutes were chaos. The Hollow threw itself at the fleet with suicidal intensity, trying to take as many lives as possible before the end. Ships fell by the dozens. Crews fought until they had nothing left. And then, With a sound like a dying star, the array reached its peak. The resonance exploded outward one final time. Every hollow creature in the galaxy was hit by a wave of pure destruction. Their physical forms, already weakened, simply broke apart. They dissolved into nothing, leaving only empty space where they had been. The screaming stopped. For a long moment, no one moved. The surviving ships drifted in silence, their crews unable to believe what had happened. Then, slowly, voices began to fill the communication channels. Cries of relief, shouts of triumph. The sound of species that had faced extinction suddenly realizing they would live. Admiral Tay slumped in his command chair. His hands were shaking. "Is it done?" he asked quietly. Dr. Kim Yuna's voice came through, exhausted but sure. "Sensors are clear. The hollow is gone. Not defeated, destroyed. There is nothing left." Tay closed his eyes. He thought of General Hannah, who had died defending the station. He thought of the 47 ships that had flown into darkness to plant the array nodes. He thought of every human who had worked in sacrifice for 3 years, preparing for a battle they might not survive. "It is done," he said. The days that followed were filled with mourning and celebration in equal measure. The galaxy was shattered. Trillions had died. Hundreds of worlds were empty. Species that had existed for millions of years were reduced to a handful of survivors. But life remained. Refugee fleets returned to their homeworlds, or what was left of them. Rebuilding began slowly, painfully. The Council met for the first time since the war, its membership reduced by half. High Counselor Vethra stood before the assembly. His silver skin had turned pale, and his forearms hung limp at his sides. When he spoke, his voice was small. "I owe humanity an apology," he said. "I owe them more than an apology. I owe them everything." He stepped down from his position and bowed to Ambassador Beekwan, who sat in the human delegation's chair. One rose slowly. "We do not want apologies. We want partnership. True partnership, not the kind we had before. No more outer rim colonies. No more dismissing voices because they come from small species. Every people equal. Every voice heard." The Council agreed. They had no choice. The humans had saved them and everyone knew it. A new government formed. One where humans did not lead but advised. Dr. Kim. Yuna started an institute to rebuild lost worlds and recover the knowledge of fallen species. Captain Li Jin took command of a new patrol fleet. Watching the galactic edge for threats that might never come? Ambassador. Kolmir found Admiral Tay standing alone on an observation deck, looking at the stars. The old human had finally allowed himself to rest, but his eyes still carried the weight of everything he had done. "Can I ask you something?" Kolmir said. Tay nodded. "Why?" The question hung in the air. "We mocked you. We dismissed you. We left you to the outer rim and laughed when you tried to warn us. Why did you come back? Why did you save us?" Tay was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft. "My grandmother used to say something. She said, 'Kindness is not given because it is deserved. It is given because that is who you choose to be.'" He turned to face Kolmir. "We chose to be the ones who stayed. Even when we left, Kolmir did not understand completely. Perhaps humans were too strange to ever fully understand. But he understood enough. Years passed. The galaxy healed. New colonies were built on old worlds. Species that had never spoken before became allies and friends. The Hollow became a legend, a story told to children to remind them of what the universe could throw at them, and what they could overcome. On a restored Dreth world, a human child played with Dreth children in a garden. They laughed and ran under a sky full of stars. Stars that still shone because, long ago, a species of quiet builders and patient warriors had looked at the darkness and refused to give up. The humans had left without a sound. They had returned without a fanfare. And in the end, they had done what they always did. They survived. And they helped others survive with them. In the great halls of the new council, a statue was built. It showed a human hand reaching up to grasp a star. Below it, a simple inscription. "They came when we needed them. They saved us when we did not deserve it." Remember the silence. Remember the sacrifice. Remember humanity. The galaxy remembered.